now, right 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 now. Oh, I got a real good feeling.
We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We got to add a little addendum to the show map today. Shall we start here on the daily? Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. Well, what's happening? It's been increasing over the last 50 years since the Vietnam War. The government has been getting bigger. Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here and welcome back. In today's video, we are going to be talking about the major escalation that has taken place in the Middle East. As you will already have seen, there has been a major war that has broken out in Central Command as the United States and Israel have launched a joint operation against the Islamic Republic. This has led to a massive war with thousands of sorties being carried out. Thousands of munitions have been used, and already 4 service members of the United States military are unfortunately deceased. Today, we're going to be talking about this development, but we're also going to be talking about how this is impacting the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency markets. As you guys know, cryptocurrency is our primary focus here. And as always, we're going to be tying all of this back into how we can develop more financial sovereignty for ourselves. It's very interesting to see how different markets have reacted to this news over the weekend. We've seen oil futures rally quite a bit, which makes sense because the Iranians have theoretically closed the Strait of Hormuz. You've probably heard about that taking place. We're going to break down what that means. We've also seen gold go through a bit of a rally, and we've actually seen Bitcoin, our flagship investment here, skyrocket. Even just over the last 2 hours, as we've seen U.S. markets open, Bitcoin has rallied dramatically. And so we're going to be breaking down exactly why this candlestick is taking place too. There are a lot of different angles to cover here, and I'm very excited to dive into all of them with you today. But the very first thing that we want to do is I want to extend my condolences and our thoughts and prayers to anyone who has lost someone in this conflict. War is hell. We can sit here and debate all day about whether it's right or whether it's necessary or whether it's just. I'm not real interested in wading into that. What I'm more interested in is seeing that there is untold human suffering going on, and I'm praying for you. That's all I got to say. Let's read some chat, then we're going to dive right on into it. Custom X00 is in chat, said morning. Farmer Muck said, interesting development indeed. The Wretched Operator is in chat, said good morning. Pew Pew said, none of this makes any freaking sense. Yep. Sean O'Brien in chat said, right now, right now. Alpha Romeo is in chat. Good to see you. Good to see you. Ben Flint Off is in chat. Green Bronco is in chat. CMP is in chat. Alex, my boy. Willie McCoy is in chat. CMP is in chat again. The Pothead. We've got a Pothead in chat. What's up, the Pothead? Good to see you, man. He said he liked the suit. Thank you. Delilah Andre said, good morning, Jeb and fellow crypto enthusiasts. Pew Pew is in chat. MKYBM is in chat. Bartizan is in chat. Really appreciate all of you guys being here. We've got a lot to cover, so without much further ado, let's go ahead and dive right on into it. Bitcoin has gone through a major rally over the last 7 days. For the most part, it's actually gone through a major rally over just the last 2 hours. Bitcoin has added around $1,000 of value in just the last 2 hours or so. Actually, I take that back. About $4,000 of value, about a 6% rally in the last hour. And this is very, very interesting because what we are seeing happen right now is Bitcoin is breaking all of this resistance structure that we've talked about. We've discussed how we thought that Bitcoin was going to go back down below $60,000. A lot has taken place since we've made that prediction. First of all, Jane Street got found out. They are now under federal investigation. And so we saw a major rally come off of that. Then when we actually saw the conflict in Iran begin, we actually saw an original dump for about an hour here on Bitcoin before Bitcoin finally actually began to rally dramatically. And there's a couple of reasons why Bitcoin has likely rallied from this Iranian news. So let's break today's stream up into 2 major segments. Let's first of all talk about the Iranian conflict and what's going on here. We'll spend about 5 or 10 minutes on that. We won't be too long-winded, but I want you to understand what's going on because this is ultimately probably one of the largest conflicts that we have seen in the 21st century. There's nothing that the only thing that this is comparable to is the Iraq War. So we're going to discuss that a little bit. And then we're going to talk about the impact that this has had on Bitcoin. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what's going on in Iran. We've discussed, we've been monitoring the situation, obviously, as the meme goes, quite extensively here. A couple of people that you're going to want to follow if you're trying to figure out how to monitor the situation. You're going to want to follow CENTCOM, which is the U.S. Central Command. The United States divides the world into multiple different command and control regions. Central Command is the portion of the United States military that controls the Middle East, and they are the ones that are giving out actual official updates. Most recent updates right now are that 4 U.S. service members tragically have been killed in action. The 4th service member who was seriously wounded during Iran's initial attacks eventually succumbed to their injuries. So again, like I said, we're not going to spend the whole stream on this. This is not a geopolitical stream, but I want to give you kind of a TLDR. Essentially, there was an Ayatollah, which was the supreme leader of Iran, and there have been threats that have been made, allegedly, to Donald Trump from Ayatollah Khomeini. And Donald Trump came out last night saying, they tried to kill me twice, I got him first. And so a decapitation strike was launched as a joint operation between Israel and the United States of America at somewhere around midnight Eastern time. It was about 8 a.m. in Iran, and about 30 missiles rained down on Ali Khamenei's compound, and he and the majority of his family, along with many of the other potential successors to the supreme leadership role, were all killed in that decapitation strike in the first minute of the conflict. Following that, the largest air and sea campaign that we have seen in decades was launched against Iran, and at this point, probably at least half of their military and at least 30 to 40% of their ballistic missile force has been either expended and used or destroyed. And so within the week, Iran is probably going to basically be leveled as far as military capacity. And so this opens up a lot of questions about, is terrorism going to come from this? What kind of geopolitical instability is going to come from this? Are there going to be mines being used in the Strait of Hormuz? Are prices of oil going to skyrocket as a result of this in the short term as the Strait of Hormuz is theoretically closed? And people have pointed out, well, you can't close the Strait of Hormuz. It's miles across. It's impossible. You can't just build a dam there. You can't close it. But what you can do is you can have a war going on in the middle of that in the middle of that region, so that major shipping companies like Maersk, for example, who have shut down shipping through that region, they don't want to ship in and out of the Strait of Hormuz because they can't get maritime naval insurance. And so for every time one of these big ships traverses the ocean, they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars for one crossing, for one trip in insurance. And so that those insurance premiums to pass through the Strait of Hormuz have essentially just doubled. So again, let's kind of explain this a little bit. If you look at a map, you have Iran over here, formerly known as Persia before the revolution in 1979. You have Iran right here, absolutely massive nation. Land area is probably about a third the size of the continental United States. There's 93 million people that live in Iran. This Gulf right here is called the Persian Gulf, named after Persia, which is now Iran. Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Iraq, and Iran all export oil and natural gas, LNG, liquefied natural gas, into the Persian Gulf, which then passes through this little choke point right here. It's about 20 miles across, about 20 to 25 miles across. It's called the Strait of Hormuz, and out to global markets. Majority of it goes over towards China and India and Southeast Asia. Once again, about 20% of global crude oil supplies and somewhere around 15 to 25% of natural gas supplies pass through this strait. And with there being an active war going on in this region, not only has Iran threatened to basically destroy any ships that pass through here, civilian or otherwise, also as a result of that threat and as a result of the active conflict, maritime insurance is going to go straight through the roof, which means that global shipping through this lane has basically come to a complete and total stop. Now, that is one of the biggest ways that this conflict is going to affect the markets, and that's why we talk about it. Again, we're a financial channel, not a geopolitical channel. We could sit here and talk about geopolitics all day, but we want to stay on topic. The main way that this is going to impact global markets is it's almost certainly going to have a major impact on the price of crude oil. And that's where, when we actually jump back to our chart, we're going to come over here and look at Brent crude oil, and you're going to see that the price of crude oil spiked dramatically over the last few days as a result of what is now obviously the closing of the Strait of Hormuz. This is going to have a knock-on effect because one of the largest portions of the global economy is the crude oil market. And if you dry up 20% of incoming crude, then that is most likely going to lead to all kinds of inflation down the chain. You don't need to look very far around you to find something that's made of crude oil. The sheath on this cord right here, it's plastic. The same here, plastic. My Stream Deck here, plastic, right? If you're wearing polyester clothing of any kind, it's plastic. It's made from oil. The vast majority, not the vast majority, but a very large plurality of the products that are in circulation in the world are made from crude oil. A huge amount of the energy that comes through the wires and into your home is created in natural gas power plants. This is a very, very, very serious conflict as it relates to the price of crude oil, price of liquefied natural gas, which will end up being baked into the price of all manner of goods and services down the line. Again, look anywhere around you. If you see plastic, if you see polyester, if you see anything synthetic, if you see Tupperware, it's made from oil. Oil runs the global markets. And a side note, that's probably part of the reason that Trump launched this campaign. First against Venezuela, second against Iran. With the decapitation strike by nabbing Maduro, he basically took Venezuela out of being China's ally by attacking Iran and decapitating Khomeini. Essentially, what Trump has also done is he's removed Iran from being able to be a viable ally to China. This is all about China. We might think that this is about Venezuela. You might think that this is about Iran. This is about China. He's removing the power from China's allies so China stands alone. That's why all this is happening. So anyway, now that we've ascertained that this is going to have an impact on the global economy, we just don't know what yet. And I will say that again, this will absolutely have an impact on the global economy. Without a shadow of a doubt, it is going to have a large impact on the global economy. We just don't know what it is yet. Let's analyze what that impact is going to look like. And as always, let's analyze how we can continue to build financial sovereignty as the ground beneath us continues to shift. If you're enjoying today's stream, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I want to give a big shout out to the sponsor of today's stream, which is none other than NordVPN. We are very appreciative of our sponsorship with NordVPN because we love the company. If you guys have not already signed up for NordVPN, they're going to keep you safe while you're browsing online. Now, maybe not safe from the United States military if they're coming for you, but as far as anyone else, if they're coming for you, they can't attack you if they can't see you. And NordVPN keeps you safe by keeping you invisible. You can go to nordvpn.com/Jeb and hit get the deal. You can get access to the VPN, the anti-malware and browsing protection package, the ad and tracker blocker, and the password manager. 4 independently fantastic products for $3.33 a month. And you'd get all of that with a 30-day money-back refund guarantee. This is a phenomenal deal, and you're also going to be getting 4 months extra for free. So if you've not already signed up for NordVPN, you absolutely should. Let's read a little bit of chat, and then we're going to jump on into the analysis. Hey, Jeb, could you show where Bitcoin could start pulling back, please? Always appreciate you. Absolutely. We're just about to dive on into that analysis. Jay Cut said, someone please explain it to me. That's what we're here for. Q Pew said, Bitcoin loves the drama. Actually hoping for a pullback, not finished loading up. As I've been telling you guys, like I said, we want to make sure that we are not... Anything below $70,000 is a great deal in the long run. It really is. It's a great deal in the long run. And as you guys know, I have paused a good bit of my purchasing until we're below $60,000. But I've also told you, I've acquired probably 20 to 25% of the Bitcoin that I'd like to acquire in this bear market in the 60K range. That's where I've acquired that. And so I have encouraged you guys to do the exact same thing. What happened here, Jeb? Why are you looking like an Undertaker? Oh, no, not undertaking anything like that. No. All right. Perfect timing while Putin and Russia is busy with Ukraine. Happy days, guys. Wish me luck shorting Solana here. Time to dump it. 69K won't break. Might not. We'll see. All right, let's do it. Let's do some analysis. I love talking about Bitcoin. Now, a lot of people are skeptical about this breakout on Bitcoin. I am too, to be honest with you. I am also. That said, this breakout looks fundamentally different from everything we've seen recently. And that's because this is a very large and aggressive short liquidation is what obviously took place here. We're going to go ahead and take a look at CoinGlass here in a second to try and figure out where exactly those shorts got liquidated. But that's the only way that Bitcoin runs up that fast. That is the only way that Bitcoin does that, is you run up the order book like a zipper. You zip straight up the thing, liquidating shorts. That's the only way that you have that kind of rally. So we'll go ahead and look over on CoinGlass here in just a second to see what that looks like. But what's taking place here is that over the last couple of hours, from about 9:30, the reason that Bitcoin is moonshotting right here is because the stock market opened. If you'll notice, stock market opens at 9:30. 9:30 open, right there. Bitcoin explodes. Why? 2 reasons. 2 credible reasons. Number one, we now know that Jane Street is no longer manipulating the market by dumping Bitcoin and using naked shorts to drop the price of Bitcoin at the open. That's the first reason. The second reason that Bitcoin has this big short squeeze here is because with the conflict in Iran, everyone has been wondering over the weekend, how is the U.S. stock market going to respond to this news of conflict in Iran? Well, we gapped down, opened on the DJI at 48,000 points. We immediately rallied 1% before leveling off in the exact same trading range that we were at on Friday. So one can only assume that the market is priced in that the United States military is so firmly curb stomping the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps that they're just not that concerned about the Strait of Hormuz being closed because they think that they're going to achieve complete naval dominance possibly in just the next couple of weeks, and so you won't actually see much of a disruption to the global crude oil market. Again, this is why we talked about the geopolitics. This is why I showed you the map, because that Strait of Hormuz, this has been the linchpin of this entire conflict economically. As far as conflict in the Middle East, to be quite honest with you, as horrible as it is from a humanitarian standpoint, it doesn't have that big of an impact on the global economy. What does have a big impact on the global economy are exports coming out of the region trying to get to global markets. Those are majority crude oil and liquefied natural gas, as we said. That's the major export of the region. And so if the United States military is achieving dominance as quickly as they are, it could be reasoned that the Strait of Hormuz will be completely and totally under U.S. control, completely safe, ready for oil tankers to ship in and out in just the next week or two. And so that's where I believe that the massive stock market crash that you would be expecting has not materialized. We saw after the war in Ukraine began that a huge stock market crash took place. We watched overall just a bear market in stocks take place following the beginning of the war in Ukraine. And a big part of the reason for that was because Ukraine is a major exporter of food. Ukraine was a huge grain exporter. They were called the breadbasket of Europe for a reason. They exported grain all over the old world. And so when they went offline, a huge number of exports were no longer making it to market. Well, that's not the exact same situation in Iran. In Iran, if they try to close the Strait of Hormuz, it seems that the USS Abraham Lincoln, the carrier on patrol in the Indian Ocean, is not going to allow the Strait of Hormuz to be closed. And theoretically, although insurance rates may increase for a week or two, they'll probably normalize to the point where tankers can actually traverse the Strait of Hormuz. What you would want to be looking for in the news is whether or not a tanker was bombed right there in the Strait of Hormuz, or whether or not the Strait of Hormuz was mined. It all comes down to this tiny little body of water. This tiny little body of water right here. This right here is the linchpin of the global economy right now. It is the main way that this is going to impact the economics. And with the Trump campaign and with the Netanyahu campaign, the U.S., Israel, whatever, campaign against Iran being so swift and so violent and so dominant, it doesn't actually seem that shipping traffic out of these other nations such as the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, or Kuwait, or Iraq is actually going to be slowed down very much. And any of the exports that were coming out of Iran, the vast majority of them weren't coming to U.S. markets anyway, so it's not going to have a big impact on the U.S. stock market anyway. And even if it does, it's going to take months before an actual real impact other than just fear is felt. And right now, there's not much fear in the U.S. stock market because people are thinking, oh man, we're winning very quickly. So all of that to say, we have been, and let's tie all this up into a nice neat bow. We have been wondering here on the channel for a couple of months as the buildup has been going on around Iran. It was obvious that an attack was coming. We've said that. It took longer than I thought it would to happen. I thought it was going to happen in mid-January, but it happened. They took a month and a half to build up like 70% of U.S. naval forces in the region. An incredible buildup that we have not seen again since the Iraq War. There's been a lot of concern, a lot of FUD even, that the war in Iran was going to, because we knew it was coming, was going to cause a stock crash, and it was going to cause a crash on Bitcoin. And the fact that it has not caused a stock market crash is the main reason, is the main driver of the fact that Bitcoin rallied the way that it did over the last 2 hours. Because now the market's open, stock market has not crashed, crude oil futures are up A little bit, but they're not up to such a degree that it's going to cause just this unraveling of the global economy or anything. We're not talking about a COVID-style disruption event. We're talking about something much smaller from an economic standpoint. And so what we're witnessing here is that Bitcoin is more or less celebrating the fact that the conflict in Ukraine has not crashed the stock market. That's what this is. And it's also celebrating the fact that the conflict in Ukraine does not seem to be, now that it's actually here, having the same bearish impact that it was. So in other words, this was a sell the rumor, buy the news event. Everyone was terrified of World War III breaking out. Oh my goodness, is Russia or China going to get involved in this war? Well, they're not. They're not going to. They're just not going to. It's not going to happen. There was a defense agreement between Iran and Putin and Russia. And Russia found a way to get out of it. They're not coming to Iran's aid anymore. Iran stands alone, and they will collapse because there's a coalition of about a dozen nations that are ticked off with them right now. It's not just Israel and Iran. It's not just Israel and the United States. The Kuwaitis are ticked off at them. The United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, the United Kingdom, France, Italy, all of these different nations are very upset with Iran and are likely to be joining the conflict. Hezbollah joined on Iran's side. So this is a major regional conflict. But the FUD around, oh my goodness, Iran's going to get attacked and it's going to cause World War III, which was one of the things that was causing Bitcoin to crash. Well, now that we see that the war has begun and World War III has not materialized, then this gives Bitcoin a bullish catalyst, not so much because it's a bullish thing that we're in a war, because it's not, but more so that it's nowhere near as bad as people thought it was going to be. Again, from the market standpoint, from the humanitarian standpoint, obviously it's horrible. Nobody likes war. Nobody wants war if it can be avoided at all. But the markets were pricing in this being the end of the world, and now that it's here and we realize it's had virtually no impact on the stock market, this actually takes a big weight off of Bitcoin, and it actually, in my opinion, is going to be what leads Bitcoin into this wave 4. Now that we're seeing Bitcoin do exactly what it's doing, because we did end up closing last week below the 200 weekly EMA, now that we're doing exactly what we're doing here, if we close this weekly candlestick in the green, which would make sense because we've had 6 red candlesticks in a row, if we close this green candlestick in this weekly candlestick in the green here in about 7 days, right? The candlestick just opened. But if we close it up here above the 200 WEMA, that's where that wave 4 will start to rally. And contrary to what we predicted, which was that a drop down to $58,000 was going to take place as a result of the war in Iran kicking off and not being as big of a bearish catalyst as we had anticipated. As a result of that development, it actually may be that we're building out that wave 4 of the bear market right now. If things go absolutely perfectly, then you may not even see that wave 5. That could have been the bottom at 60K, but that would have been very strange to see a Bitcoin bear market only drop us about 53% down to bear market bottom. Now, there is one more thing that I want to discuss here, and that is the idea of what happens from the Fed side of things. What does the Fed do? What does the Treasury do in response to this conflict? Because this is a very major conflict that's going on here. There is a very real world where interest rates go down and printing comes online faster than it was going to otherwise as a result of this conflict. It cannot be overstated how much speed and viciousness has been used in this conflict against Iran. This is, frankly, one of the most frightening uses of the U.S. military that we have seen in any of our lifetimes. That said, it's expensive. It's real expensive. And someone has to foot that bill. This is going to lead to an increased defense budget. This is not a small conflict. This is a major war that risks bringing Iraq, Saudi Arabia. It's already brought Hezbollah in. It probably won't bring Russia and Ukraine in, but this is going to almost certainly lead to a significantly increased defense budget. Someone has to foot that bill. The U.S. federal government does not bring in anywhere near enough tax revenue somehow to pay for everything that they do. And so quantitative easing of some kind is going to take place, whether that is the issuing of U.S. debt through the treasuries or whether that's through quantitative easing at the Federal Reserve. There is going to be liquidity injected into the markets as a result of this, which in a weird, Machiavellian, horrible way that I frankly don't even want to say, but I kind of have to because it's my job, may actually cause this war to be bullish for markets. Hate to say it, but it actually might happen. not a fan of saying, oh, the market go up, good. Your investments are doing well because somebody's getting bombed in the Middle East. I don't want to be the one to tell you that. But honestly, that might be the situation. And again, the reason is because, first of all, the conflict has had very minor, not zero, but very minor negative impact on the stock market and on the crude oil markets. But also, as a result of the fact that it is probably going to lead to more liquidity. And so all of that is probably going to lead the markets into bullishness. Again, unless there's some kind of major fumble, unless Iran's got a nuke stashed somewhere and they drop it on Jerusalem or something, there is probably going to be this idea that the Iranian regime itself has maybe a week to live, and then it's going to descend into terrorist warlord factions because the chain of command is completely shattered, and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps is no longer going to be a functioning government. There's no longer going to be a functioning chain of command. It's just going to be a bunch of warlords with missiles and Shahed drones. That's going to come with its own nightmare. Again, we're not what I genuinely. I've been watching this all weekend. We could wade into the geopolitics a lot, but I want to stay on markets here. So anyway, again, point is, as strange as it sounds, so far the data that we have coming in is that this conflict is, interestingly enough, it's bullish for markets. All right, let's read a little bit of chat. You learn, hit it on the head. War is big business. That's right. Bush did it. Bush Sr. did it. They also cut rates. Exactly. Will it stay like this till Friday? If things keep going the way they are, yeah, probably. I would wager that yes, they most likely will. If you continue to see the absolute curb stomp that is going on right now continue, it most likely will continue until then. Let's read a little bit more chat. Will Bitcoin go up or down? So far, as I've said, so far, this has acted as a bullish catalyst for Bitcoin. Let me say that again. So far, this has acted as a bullish catalyst for Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin is able to sustain with a daily breakout above this downtrend, if we're able to if we're able to keep a sustained breakout above our moving averages here on like the 2-hourly chart that we're breaking bullish out of right now, the 1-hourly chart that we're breaking bullish out of right now, if we're able to sustain some of these bullish movements for more than just a couple of hours, if Bitcoin doesn't just fall over here and it actually continues moving to the upside, you could see $70,000 to $75,000, maybe even up to $80,000 being tested relatively soon. This is why I encourage you guys, hold cash, because you will probably see sub 60,000. Based on the available data at the time, that was the correct call. I still think we'll see sub 60 at some point. Excuse me. But I also strongly encourage you to consider buying in the zone of $60,000 to $70,000 because this is a phenomenal zone to acquire at for the long term. And I'm very happy to report that I did acquire a good bit of Bitcoin in this range, and I'm happy about that. I still have other cash because at the time there was every reason to believe that Bitcoin was going to fall below 60,000, and to be honest with you, there still is. Just because this conflict has not been hyper bearish for Bitcoin does not mean that the bear market is over. It does not invalidate the fact that bear markets are traditionally about 12 months long. All of that is still in play. What this does show us is that one of the major drivers of bearishness for this market, the idea of an Iran war taking place, is no longer the threat that we thought it was, because everyone was pricing in Russia and China getting involved in nuking someone. And now it's obvious that they're not going to do squat. They're going to sit there and watch Iran get leveled. That's what's going to take place, because they're not going to play around with the United States military. So again, overall, this has proved to be a bullish catalyst for markets. All right. I want to give you a deal. Let's make a deal. Let's make a deal. If you go on over to ITrust Capital, one of the sponsors of today's stream, and you sign up and deposit some funds in a tax-advantaged retirement account for Bitcoin, you're going to get $100 totally free. You can get a $100 funding bonus by going to itrustcapital.com/go/crypto-jeb. And when you sign up for ITrust Capital, you're going to be getting $100 absolutely free. Now, why would you do this? Well, when you buy Bitcoin in a tax-advantaged account, you don't have to pay taxes on the money that you invest. How does that work? Well, in a retirement account, you can deduct the investment against the taxes that you owe. So if you made, let's say, $150,000 last year and you invest $7,000 this year into, $150,000 this year, and you invest $7,000 this year into your traditional IRA, individual retirement account, through ITrust Capital, you only have to pay taxes on $143,000. This is phenomenal because this saves you a serious amount of taxes. This is why everybody recommends, including I, recommend that you always max out retirement accounts if at all possible. Why not max out a retirement account with the number one most trusted retirement account provider in the cryptocurrency space, ITrust Capital, while also buying the greatest investment asset that is available to you right now, which is Bitcoin, at a phenomenal price. You get a great asset. You have the best service provider in the best type of retirement account. Why not sign up for ITrust Capital with the link in the description box down below? There's literally no reason not to. When you deposit, you're also going to be getting that $100 funding bonus, so you're getting free money too. I don't see why every single one of you over the age of 18 and that love Bitcoin would not sign up for ITrust Capital and make a deposit right away. We're going to reject here. Let's talk about that. That's a great question. This tax benefit sounds American only. They do have other types of retirement accounts, but yes, it is obviously traditional IRAs are obviously U.S. Now, ITrust Capital has actually kind of described on their website how you do this. On exchange, you buy some Bitcoin for $10,000. The value of your Bitcoin appreciates to $60,000. You sell your Bitcoin for a capital gain of $50,000. With the capital gains tax rate of 15%, you would also have to pay $7,500 in capital gains. However, if you bought $10,000 worth of Bitcoin in a Roth IRA, and the value of your Bitcoin appreciates 6x to $60,000, you sell your Bitcoin for a capital gain of $50,000. Your capital gains are non-taxable because they're in a Roth IRA, and you pay $0 in capital gains. That is phenomenal. That is absolutely fantastic. So if you have not already, sign up for ITrust Capital, deposit in a Roth IRA or traditional IRA, and do this today. All right, let's read a little bit of chat. Hey Jeb, 5-day 182 and 28 EMA showing the bottom zone. Your thoughts? Let's set that up. I must say, I don't know if I've ever looked at that specific combination of intervals, but let's try it. 182, and let's bring up another one because that's only a 1 EMA. Exponential moving average. Let's bring up the 28. I'm going to imagine there's something really cool about this pairing. Hopefully. All right, and this was on the weekly. 5-day. It's on the 5-day. Okay, we're just using all kinds of weird intervals. Hopefully we're not on a goose chase here. Let's add a custom interval. 5 days. I have a feeling I'm being trolled. But you know what? I'm going to go along with it because it's so funny. Let's see. I see. Interesting. Interesting. I see what you're doing here. How did you find these intervals? I understand what you're doing. I can see it. I got my chart vision on. We've only been doing this for 9 years. Here's your bottom. Here's your bottom. And I suppose the theory is that in the next couple of weeks, what do you say? Thanks in advance. Yeah, you can see that these two are coming close to crossing. I guess this is what he's saying. So, with these strange intervals, 182 and 28, well, I guess 28 could be a month. I have no idea. I'm going to be honest. Maybe it's staring me in the face and I'm just being stupid, but I have no idea where you're getting these intervals from. But it works. It seems to work. You can see the cross here takes place. 5 days a daily Fibonacci time frame. Oh, okay. Well, the 5-day, that does make sense. Yeah, that makes sense. But take a look at this. You've got this right here. This crosses right down here, almost at the exact bottom of the first bear market. That works, right? The cross takes place there at the bottom of the bear market. Then you see the same thing take place over here, and we don't see another cross over here. Notice a lot of our models have another bearish cross that takes place over here, and then you end up having a fluke, and it takes place right around somewhere in there. It doesn't take place on these intervals. This shows us a cross taking place right there almost at the bottom. And in fact, important to note, the bottom took place, because this will come up in just a second, the bottom took place about a month in advance. About a month in advance of the cross. About a month. Yeah, about 3 weeks to a month in advance. That's the first bear market. Then we have our second bear market over here. The actual bottom of the bear market takes place about 3 weeks in advance. You move on here to the third bear market, and the bottom takes place here about 20 days in advance. And then, of course, as we recall, Bitcoin did drop lower here, but if not for the FTX collapse, this would have been the bear market bottom, which means that we shouldn't fault this model because it didn't call over here, because this was not supposed to be where the bear market bottom was taking place. And then you move forward, and as you can see, we would be expecting that this cross would take place somewhere around the 22nd of March, which would mean that our bottoms over here would have been right on schedule. So according to that model, according to this model with these intervals, this would indicate that we are looking at what just happened with Bitcoin dropping down to $60,000 being the bottom of the bear market. And that is possible. It is possible. Once again, it comes down to whether or not we are going to see Bitcoin break through 80,000. And we want to maintain a sovereign position. And so the way that we do that is we're going to take advantage. It's a 4 week. I understand the 4 weeks, the 28 days. No, that's 4 weeks. I get that. 26 days. 26 weeks being half a year. I got you. That makes sense. Okay, now that does make sense. The only issue I have with that is that this is 182 candles. These are 5-day candles. So that would make sense on the daily chart. Right? That would make sense if this was the daily chart. But it's the 5-day chart. So it doesn't actually work like that because it'd be 28 times 5, which off the top of my head, let's see if I can do the math on that real quick. That'd be 150 minus 5 times 2, which is 10. That'd be 140. So that's 140 days worth of price action, not 28. Which obviously that's just 28 divided by 2 times 10, right? So that's an easier way to do that math. I have all these algorithms in my head for how to do math quickly. That was one of them. So anyway, it is interesting. I will say the historicity of this is worked really well. It timed the bottom of the bear market almost perfectly. Where the numbers come from are something that I'm sure I could learn about, but timing the bottom is interesting. So I will say that. As far as whether the bottom's in or not, history tells us that the bottom should not be in at 60,000. Fundamentals say that it could be. It's possible. We do have an ETF now. We do have the Iran war has started, and it has not destroyed the global markets, which could end up being a very strong bullish catalyst. We could see that. But at the end of the day, the 4-year halving cycle would dictate that we would still see up to several more months of bear market. If you discount the FTX crash over here, if you discount the FTX crash, which frankly we should, and this is something that we should pay attention to, the bear market bottom was actually only 220 days and 75% from the top. Because FTX crashing was not 4-year halving cycle stuff. So that was about 2/3 as long. And we've talked about the idea that this bear market could be 2/3 as long as the normal bear market, which is 12 months. Once again, our bear market here probably would have bottomed in June of 2022, down 75%, 220 days after all-time high, if we had not seen FTX collapse, which means theoretically, barring the FTX collapse, it's possible that this would have been a shortened bear market, but it didn't end up being one because of the collapse of FTX. If that's the case, then we would be looking at a repeat of last bear market being only 220 days long, which means the bottom would be in May. So it's very possible that 60K is the bottom. There's very good reason to believe that we could go lower than 60K. But again, 60K could have been the bottom, and we've said that from the very beginning, which is why we've been acquiring down here. We want to maintain cash reserves so that if Bitcoin does go lower, that we're able to take advantage of that. But we have been acquiring Bitcoin in the 60K region, and I've encouraged you to do that. And we're actually up on our average cost at this point, with Bitcoin being at 69.5. And I think I think that any acquisitions you make of Bitcoin below $70,000 are going to end up looking really good in the long run. I think they're going to end up looking absolutely beautiful in the long run. Big buy walls at 60 and 55. It remains to be seen what's going to happen. Stack, hodl, chill. Like I said, it is too early to go and start saying that that Bitcoin is about to go through this massive breakout to the upside. Too early for that. But I would encourage you to remain in spot. I would encourage you to acquire for the long term. I would encourage you to pursue peace. I would encourage you to pursue financial sovereignty, which is the mission of our company. People have asked me for 10 years what I do for a living, and it's kind of weird to say I'm a YouTuber. So I've always tried to figure out how to say what I actually do, and I've come to realize that my purpose is to expose God's word and wisdom as it pertains to finance to a world that desperately needs it. I want to help you understand that God's word says something about money. What it says about money, in fact, it says a lot about money, is good. And the lesson for today is from the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 11. Pull it up. Ecclesiastes chapter 11 says this: "Ship your grain across the sea. After many days, you may receive a return." This verse is very important. What does this mean? What this verse means is that you need to make investments. Why do you ship your grain across the sea? You're sending it out to market. You're making an investment. After many days, you may receive a return. It also says here, whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. What does that mean? That means a farmer who's constantly wondering whether the wind, watching the wind, whether it's the right time to plant or not, they will wait so long to plant that they'll never get the chance. Someone who's always looking at the clouds to see whether or not there's going to be more rain and the crop will be more fruitful will never harvest. So the application that we have for this is not just if you're a farmer, plant at the right time and harvest at the right time. The application for Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verses 1 and 4, is that we need to make an investment because that's part of how we are wise with our money. And we also, while it's okay to watch the wind, it's okay to watch the clouds. What is that? For us, that's technical analysis. We're watching the wind and we're watching the clouds. We're watching the wind. Is it time to buy? We're watching the clouds. Is it time to sell? That's what we're doing. We're doing the exact same thing that farmers 3,500 years ago were doing. We're looking at the environment around us to see, is it a good time to plant? Is it a good time to harvest? This is what farmers would do back then. They'd watch the wind to see if is now the right time to plant, or is the wind going to come in and blow away all my seed, and I'm going to lose all of that money that I put into planting. And on the other hand, we're looking at the clouds. Is more rain going to come and give me more fruit? Will I make so much more money, so much more harvest if I just wait a week? Is one more rainstorm going to come? Am I going to have a better harvest? Let's translate. Is the wind going to cause Bitcoin to go to 40K and I'll get a better entry, so I'll never ship my grain across the sea? Or are there clouds coming? Is Bitcoin going to go to 150, so I'm never going to sell and receive a return? This is 3,000-year-old wisdom, and it applies just as much to Bitcoin as it did to farming back then. It is our job to plant seeds and make an investment. It's a great thing to use our knowledge of wind and the clouds, or in this case, moving averages, oscillators, technical indicators, fundamental technical analysis. It's a great thing to try and understand the bottom's going to be over here, top's going to be over here, bottom's here, top's there. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But if we tunnel vision, and this is the point that Solomon is making in the book of Ecclesiastes, if we tunnel vision on analyzing the charts, in his case, if you tunnel vision on analyzing the wind and the clouds, you'll never plant, you'll never buy, and you'll never harvest. You'll never sell. Sub $70,000, even if we go down to $48,000 to $55,000, is a phenomenal zone to enter. Because we know, based on extensive study, that Bitcoin is a great asset. It's a good crop. It bears fruit. We've seen it happen before. Farmers have gotten rich doing this. They've built wealth. They've provided for their families in this kind of crop, in Bitcoin. So when we see a good price, a good time to plant, it might not be the perfect time to plant, but we're going to plant. And when we see a good time to harvest, it might not be the perfect time to harvest, but we're going to harvest. And we're going to be glad we did. And we do this faithfully, season after season after season after season. Isn't it so interesting that Bitcoin moves on a 4-year halving cycle the same way that farmers move on a 4-season cycle? It's so interesting, isn't it? The world is cyclical. It goes from one end to the other and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Just like your feet when you're pedaling a bicycle, it goes back and forth. There's a time to buy and there's a time to sell. And even though you might get a better time to buy, it's still a time to buy. Sub 70K, in my honest opinion, is a fantastic time to put some seed in the ground, and whoever watches the wind will fail to plant. And when Bitcoin's sitting up at $200,000 or $300,000, you're going to be hitting yourself because, I didn't buy at 69K because I wanted to buy at 55. You'll regret that. If you have a good entry, take it. They say that perfect is the opposite of good, is the enemy of good. As always, my mission is to help you achieve financial sovereignty. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, stay tuned for more content. I also highly encourage you, if you have not already, to check out some of our courses where we are going to teach you more about technical analysis, and we're going to teach you more about investment and money management and the like. I highly encourage you to check out the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy with the link in the description box down below. Over here is a video course that is going to teach you everything that you need to know about technical analysis so that you understand when the market is going to do what it's doing, so that to the best of anyone's ability, you can understand which direction the market is going in. So I highly encourage you, if you have not already, to sign up for the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy with the link in the description box down below. You're going to be getting access to over 12 hours of content teaching you about how to read markets. You can also check the links down below for the Financial Sovereignty Academy, where I'm going to teach you what our family does to be financially sovereign, even in the worst of bear markets. And you can check out our one-on-one, one-hour coaching program with the link down below as well. Let's read a little bit of chat, and then we're going to wrap it out. Sablus said, bro, reply, please. Let's see. I don't see your first message. Those are the first two messages I see from you. YouTube may have censored you or something. I didn't do it. Wasn't me. I don't see another message from you. So whatever you want to ask, feel free to go ahead and do it. Delilah is in chat also. Delilah Andre said, good morning, Jeb and fellow crypto enthusiasts. Good morning to you as well. RSK said, hello, when will the course come out on Femex for free if you followed all your steps? That has been done for a while. If you haven't gotten access to that, then I want you to go ahead and shoot an email to malachi.pats@cryptojeb.com. He is the one on our team who is responsible for that. Let's see if there is if I have his link in the description box. I don't, so I'm just going to, that's interesting. We must have updated our description. It's Malachi Pats, MALAKIPATZ @cryptojeb.com. And he will get you in there after you've provided if you've followed all the steps with Femex. All right. All right. Weekly still looks like crash. Weekly looks awful. But at the same time, the worse the weekly chart looks, the more likely it is that the weekly chart's about to reverse. You know, I mean, Bitcoin can only drop for so long. It's not a dead asset. It's not going to go to zero. It can only drop for so long. And so a weekly chart bounce here is highly likely. It's very, very, very likely. But it's definitely too early to say that the bear market is over. So let's not jump the gun on that. Like I said, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. More content is always on its way. Really appreciate you guys being here. If you enjoyed today's video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and before we go, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.